Hi, I'm Kay Walter. At Bergen Community College, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the important issues that affect their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of Life and Living with Joanna Gagis has been provided by New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. The Mental Health Association in New Jersey. Verizon Communications. Johnson & Johnson. Cohn-Resnick, Accounting, Tax and Advisory, where forward thinking creates results. United Airlines. And by the Russell Berry Foundation. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey. And by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.
Welcome to Life and Living. I'm Joanna Gagis. In this first segment, we're talking all about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and what our kids today need to know and aren't learning enough of in school. And I'm joined right now by David Anderson, who's the president and CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of Mercer County. Welcome, David.
I'm glad to be here.
So I know that the Boys and Girls Clubs do a lot more than just deal with STEM, but right now that's a huge topic. Talk about what you're doing and why for these students in terms of the STEM involvement.
Sure. STEM is right now there's over 1 million jobs in this country that are unfilled because corporations and companies can't find skilled workers, and it's a lot around the STEM field. And so a lot of it we try to do is have kids try different hands-on activities to start gaining an understanding of what they may or may not be interested in doing in their career choices. And STEM is one of those activities that has a lot of hands-on projects, be it building robots out of Legos, be it doing math games, working with computers. It gives a lot of those hands-on projects for kids.
When people think of STEM, I doubt that the first thing that comes to mind is a hands-on project. But there are fields, and as you take it from childhood into adulthood, it can be fun. Right? It can be hands-on. And so talk about some of the specifics of the programs. You mentioned Lego. Talk about First Lego.
So First Lego is one of our partners, and we have a lot of different partners that we bring in to do our STEM programming. So what they do is they start with the kids with basic Legos and with parts that can be programmed to do certain functions. Just like if you see on an assembly line on a car, they would start with simple things where they would build something that the Lego arm would move and rotate.
So it's like a robotic made out of Legos.
And then what they would do is the kids are interested in building it, but as they build it, then the teacher explains some of the scientific principles behind it. It's actually the opposite that most schools do, where you would have your chemistry lecture and then do the chemistry lab, which is the fun part. What we do is the lab part first, and then the instructor would explain some of the principles behind it for the learning.
So they don't even know they're learning.
Exactly.
They don't even know they're being taught.
We call it sneaky learning.
I love that. You call it sneaky learning. So it's an actual approach in terms of taking kind of the daunting, very heavy focus away from the lesson and making it fun. How does that impact child's learning?
It's really, for a lot of the kids that we see that struggle in school, it's a way for them to find how to be successful, and then understanding that they can apply those principles that they've learned to do better in school. And it actually boosts their self-esteem. It gives them confidence that they can know that they can learn new things and do new things. And it really changes kids around.
You work a lot with computers, and it runs the gamut from the youngest to the oldest of your students. I know it starts with intro to computers, but talk about how that program grows with the child.
Sure. We have kids all the way from kindergarten all the way through high school, and what we try to do is create a continuum, almost like a pathway, that kids can start with basic things such as keyboarding and internet safety and then build into things such as digital photography, movie making, web design when they get into middle school kids. And then as they get into high school, learn more sophisticated things such as essential of computers and how to take them apart and rebuilding them and upload operating systems.
Well, it's interesting. You talk about the rebuilding and taking apart of computers. There's a program called Career Launch, and the kids are actually giving back to the community through that program, through computers. Explain that.
So Career Launch is the overall arching piece of kids exploring careers. And when you get to the higher level, kids want experience doing things. And so we created a social entrepreneurial business where people donate used computers. Our kids are trained with the Cisco IT Essential class where they take them apart, put them back together so they're working computers, and then we resell them back into the community at low cost. And this $50 or $75 that we get now for a working computer funds the training programs and the jobs for those high school students doing it.
You're in Mercer County. What communities are you impacting in terms of student involvement and then in terms of the outreach with these programs that you're talking about?
We have 10 locations within the city of Trenton, but we also have some locations in Ewing and Lawrence. We're opening up a new 35,000 square foot community center on Spruce Street that divides Ewing from Lawrence, and we'll be opening that up to any Mercer County youth.
Now, in particular, girls and young women are not entering the STEM fields as much as men. So I know there's something called Camp Go, and it specifically targets young girls. What are you doing there?
So Camp Go is for middle school girls, and it has not only the STEM activities that introduce girls to that, but it also does guest speakers where women professionals come in and talk each week to the girls about what their role and their pathway was to get where they were, so they learn from other professional women. They also go on college and business tours, so it gets them out into the community to see those work environments. And then they do a lot of leadership activities where they can go out into the community and volunteer, and they do a lot of project work. So if they're doing that Lego robotics, they would work as a team and learn how to work together as a team and provide leadership opportunities for
How do you see this impact those young girls?
A lot with, oh, I didn't know I could do that. A lot of, hey, that's pretty cool. And a lot of, hey, what's next? What can I do? And that's really the important thing for middle school and high school kids is kids are forced when they get in their upper high school years of making career decisions, and they really don't have any information on how to do that. And so programs like our Camp Go and our Career Launch program enable kids to start putting some pieces of the puzzle together.
And I know we don't have a lot of time, but there's a program that's just been introduced to the Boys and Girls Clubs, and it's BEAM. Can you explain what BEAM is?
BEAM is an asthma awareness program funded through the Horizon Foundation. And it basically looks at some of the statistics where a lot of emergency visits in lower income communities come from asthma attacks. And so what we've done through the help of the foundation is had 300 kids go through an asthma awareness program where they're beginning to understand what are some of the signs of asthma, what brings on asthma, and also do screening so that any kids that do have the signs of asthma can be referred to a physician for treatment prior to going into a hospital visit. And it's been a really great program.
Why is it effective to have these kids start to understand the impacts of their own health and their own surroundings on their health?
Well, obviously one of the problems with our healthcare system is most of it is on curing or treatment after you've had something versus preventative.
Prevention.
And so this is prevention. And the awareness and the educational level of kids going into adults really helps the whole preventive piece. And there's a lot of things with most diseases that people can do to prevent them.
And in asthma, in the case of asthma in particular, there are a lot of things we can do to better our health and decrease our risk of asthma.
It's the number one reason why kids miss school, and then that just causes other problems.
David Anderson, President and CEO, Boys and Girls Clubs of Mercer County. I know I could have talked to you for a full program because there's so much that you're doing and you're really touching kids' lives, especially in the Mercer County area where you are. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. More Life and Living coming up right after this.
To see more Life and Living with Joanna Gagis programs, visit us online at lifeandliving.org. If you would like to express an opinion, Email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/joannagagis.lifeandliving and follow us on Twitter at Joanna Gagis.
Knee and hip replacements that were previously thought to be only for older patients are now increasingly being seen in younger patients. This trend is due in part to the changing medical needs of the patient, as well as improvements being made to the procedures and the implants themselves. In this next segment, we'll talk with two patients about their hip and knee replacement and the life-changing impact that it's had. I'm here with Dr. Schoifet, who is the medical director for the Joint Replacement Institute here at Virtua. Dr. Schoifet, what problems in the knee and the hip usually lead to the need for a replacement?
Well, usually it's osteoarthritis, which is the loss of the cartilage cushion between the bones. So in a hip or a knee, we're supposed to have a cushion between the two so that we're not having that pain of the bones rubbing together. And when that cushion erodes or disappears, it can lead to painful arthritis.
Michael Balaban suffered from debilitating knee pain before undergoing surgery in both knees, one knee using a quad sparing technique. How would you describe the pain that you were experiencing before your knee replacements?
Very intense. What I wound up having was a lot of difficulty walking up and down steps, a lot of aches, pains, tough time sleeping, just because of the pain itself.
How much did that limit your life and your quality of life?
I had no quality of life until after I had the knees replaced, both of them. I'm not an old man, I'm a young man, and I waited until I was older than 50 to have the first knee surgery. That was really limiting what I could do physically. I was putting on weight, was not able to go to the gym, was not able to cut my own lawn. So yeah, it was very debilitating.
You do a procedure called the quad sparing procedure. Explain what that is and what that means to a patient undergoing a knee replacement surgery.
Sure. Traditionally, when we did a knee replacement, you have to get the kneecap out of the way. So what we would do is we would cut the quadriceps tendon and we'd flip the kneecap out of the way and put those nice knee replacement parts on it. And it did great. Patients did wonderfully. But after surgery, they're rehabbing the knee replacement and the cut in the quadriceps tendon that we performed. And they had a lot of struggles with pain because you have a cut tendon that you're also rehabbing at the same time. The idea with quadriceps sparing techniques is, can you put those same pieces in without having to cut the tendon? It makes the surgery technically more challenging. But if you can actually do that and put the knee replacement in, then when you're rehabbing the knee, you're not rehabbing a tendon that you cut and sewed back together.
What is the impact on a patient's ability to get up and be mobile after the surgery if you're not cutting the tendon?
Our patients are able to get up and walk on it as soon as the feeling returns to their legs after surgery, the same day.
Patients who previously may have been told they should wait to get the replacement because the joint itself will only last a certain amount of time now have the option to go a little bit earlier because that prosthetic will last longer.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the old wives' tale that we hear all the time. I shouldn't get it because so-and-so told me it's only going to last 10 years, okay, which is a complete fallacy. If it's going to only last 10 years, it probably wasn't put in very well.
How long did it take before you were able to walk after the quad sparing technique?
Without assistance, probably about a week. My experience with the quad sparing was I was able to move and had increased mobility that I didn't have before.
This is Jared Orth, and he recently underwent a hip replacement surgery. Jared, describe for us the pain that you were living with before your surgery.
Excruciating would be the word to describe it. Could barely even go about my daily routine without being in pain, whether it's getting up from a chair, getting out of bed, stepping into the shower. It was really a bad quality of life and just extreme pain from sunrise to sunset and everything in between.
How did you make the decision to undergo the hip replacement surgery?
It affected my life personally, even professionally, and I just was tired of the pain. At the time I was 37, so I felt I had a lot of life to live and I didn't want to delay the process any longer.
Jared's hip replacement also avoided cutting the tendon, which, like the knee, can be a very painful part of the recovery process.
There are a number of different minimally invasive procedures for the hip. A new approach, more novel, and certainly has been out there more recently, is to go from the very front of the hip. And you don't cut any of the tendons to get into the hip. So again, it's technically more challenging, but if you don't cut the tendon when you go in and do the surgery, then they're not rehabbing a repaired tendon after the surgery.
So how quickly were you up and walking around after the surgery?
Surgery was at 7, I was out at 9, and I was out of my bed and walking laps around the hallway around noon. So less than 3 hours.
Were you surprised by that you were actually up and walking?
I couldn't believe it, to tell you the truth. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't really expect myself to be out that quick and, you know, without any pain. The pain was immediately relieved, and you could tell that, you know, things were going to be a lot better than they were the day before.
While other patients' experiences may be different than Jared's and Michael's, physical therapist Laura Say explains that increased mobility after surgery allows her to treat her patients more effectively. Now, Laura, for you as a physical therapist, how does it impact the therapy you're able to provide if they have mobility very quickly after the surgery?
Well, that makes the physical therapy quicker, and I can move them into more advanced activities. Plus the fact that they don't have pain and I'm not creating pain is huge.
In terms of a patient's ability to get out of the hospital and to get back into what feels like a more normal setting, how does that impact their recovery time?
That's huge, because not only are they back home resuming their normal activities as they're going to outpatient therapy. So to get them to come out as an outpatient is a big step.
There was physical therapy leading up to and following the procedure. Explain that for us and what that looked like for you.
When I had my first knee done, I really did not have any physical therapy prior. When I had the second one done, I was put on a physical therapy regime prior to the operation as opposed to just post-operation. I think that knee is to some extent stronger than the first knee just because I had the advantage of the additional physical therapy.
Of strengthening the leg.
That's correct.
Prior to it being operated on.
Yes.
The more you move the knee after surgery, the less it's going to hurt. So right after surgery, even before they get their feeling back, when they have just the muscle control, we start them moving their knee. And it doesn't hurt as much when the feeling comes back because they're already moving it. And if it starts to hurt, they keep moving it more. And with the combination of pain pills and mobility, that's what allows them to get up and get moving and get home.
To see more Life and Living with Joanna Gagis programs, visit us online at lifeandliving.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/joannagagis.lifeandliving and follow us on Twitter at Joanna Gagis.
Our message is, you know, global environmental problems are very serious, and people often think that you can't solve them with just local actions. But we believe that taking action is the first step to making solutions to these problems. Inaction is what allows these problems to continue to happen. So that's why what we do is we believe in collective action, and we do it every single day of the week.
It's really amazing. I just toured the bees. I toured the garden in the back, and as you all know, the volunteers know that this is a much bigger program than just what we see here. Eric's reach and his volunteers' reach go far and beyond here, and he's not only teaching people and feeding people, but really seeing the importance of growing things and really educating folks.
Welcome back to Life and Living. You know, it's rare that I have the opportunity to sit down with a young person who's as motivated, as dynamic, as civic-minded as the young man I'm about to introduce you to. He's Eric Fuchs-Stengel. He's the executive director and founder of Mahwah Environmental Volunteers Organization, MEVO for short. It's right there on your shirt. What is MEVO?
MEVO is an environmental not-for-profit organization based in northern New Jersey, out of Mahwah, New Jersey. We've been operating in the region for about 7 years, and we're entirely led by youth volunteers.
I hate to call attention to your age,
but
you're young. You're young still, and that's a wonderful thing. How did you start this organization?
So I started when I was 16 years old. I was in high school at the time. A group of my best friends and I enjoyed hiking at the Roundpa Reservation in Mahwah, and we'd spent our entire summer outdoors, climbing rocks, swimming in lakes, being outdoors, and being involved in nature, in the natural world. And we noticed that there was a problem. We noticed that everywhere we went in the Roundpa Reservation, there was garbage, bottles, cans, clothing, Tupperware. And we decided to start MEVO, the Mahwah Environmental Volunteers Organization, as a group to clean up the forest that we love to explore.
You started this with your friends?
Yes,
Got
my
a group
best
of people
friends.
together just to say, hey, listen, you know, you might not be into this, but we really are. We
Yeah.
need your help. Come help us.
Definitely, definitely. And you know, at the beginning it was just my best buddies in high school. And as time went on, we got a lot more people involved, a lot more students, even older folks, adults, and now we've grown substantially since then.
So you broke for a little while when you went to college?
Yeah, kind of. So like, you know, my dream when I went to college was that I'd pass MEVO on to other high school students, and forever it would be this like great high school program, which is what I did. But once I got to college, we realized that MEVO had a real potential to help a lot more people if I stayed with it longer. So I wound up staying with it, coming back to it, and helping all the high school students we had involved really grow it to a much bigger organization.
What is MEVO's main mission now? You've expanded past just cleaning up the reservoir.
So our mission is to show people a model for ecological solutions. And what that means is to show people how you can make your community anywhere in the United States of America sustainable. And sustainability to us means the interconnections of social, economic, and environmental forces in society. And when these forces work together, that leads to a better future for future generations, our children and grandchildren.
Break down what that means. Those three
Yeah.
forces. Break down what each of them is tangibly.
So the notion would be like, a lot of people assume economics works against environmental protection, for example, or social programs works against environmental programs. You have to fund one or not the other. Our idea is to find ways that these different systems interact in society and figure out a way to make them all work together so that we create a better future. For example, we build farms, organic farms, and we grow food on donated land, which is usually donated by either a not-for-profit or a for-profit company. The food that we grow, we then donate to hunger organizations to feed people who can't afford food. So we're working with sometimes a for-profit venture to let us borrow their property, and they're donating that resource to grow food.
For instance, I'm sorry to interrupt. For
Yeah, no
instance,
problem.
Bergen Community College
Yes.
has recently donated land to you.
Yes, totally.
Was it polluted land?
Yes, so in 2011 we got our very first piece of land, which was at Bergen Community College, which was an amazing gift for them to give to us.
They saw the good work that you were doing and said, hey, we have land available, or you reached out to them?
Yeah, so how do I best describe this? I reached out to them. You know, it's really funny. Actually, how do I best put this, actually? I reached out to them, but we also had a professor at Bergen Community College that insisted that I reach out. She showed us a piece of property at Bergen Community College campus and said, you guys can take this and build a huge farm on it. Then once we started working there, we realized that we had to, you know, this professor can't just give us Bergen Community College's property. You know, we can't just show up on someone else's property and start growing on it.
So you had to make it official.
Yes, and so the nice thing was we didn't know if Bergen Community College would be willing. And it turned out that they were not only willing, but they've supported us 10 times since then.
How are you growing on polluted land? How does that work?
Yeah, so the property is what's called illegal dumping. It was a wetlands that was filled in by construction fill and a lot of polluted materials. Then it was planted on with sod or grass. And so we actually grow above ground in containers, hundreds of them, and we grow food that is, like I said, now donated.
Okay, so you bring the foods that you grow to families in need.
Yep.
That's connecting the social aspect of
Definitely.
it, right? So how are you doing that? I mean, as a volunteer organization with you're only volunteer based, is it true you're the only employee?
I am the only employee, and I'm paid 2 days a week right now, so.
Awesome,
Yeah.
so you're bare bones.
Oh, yes.
So how are you doing what you're doing?
So we work with two not-for-profit organizations. One is called the Center for Food Action. They're based all over northern New Jersey. I'm sure you've heard of them. And one is called Table to Table. Table to Table is a great group because we actually just recently started partnering with them this past year. We grow a ton of food, tons of produce. We harvest it all in one day. We call them up. They show up with their truck. We pack it into the truck and they bring it to the food organization that needs it.
Partnerships are huge for you, aren't they?
Huge, huge.
Mary Pat Christie happened to notice your work.
Yes.
She came down and visited the farm at Bergen Community College and named you a New Jersey hero.
Yes, she did.
And that came with an award of $7,500.
You got
Is that more than double your annual budget?
Yes, so last year, beginning of 2014, we had about $5,000 in the bank. And when we got that donation from Mrs. Christie, it actually was a lot of money for us. And after winning that award, many corporate groups, different donators came out and actually started to donate because they saw Mrs. Christie recognizing our work.
And new partnership with United Water that I know is taking you to the next level. United Water has come on to support your work. How?
So United Water reached out to us and they said that they heard about our efforts and our work, and they're a water company and they have a value for clean drinking water, and clean communities. And they supported us first with volunteers. They came out with tons and tons of people. They helped us build a huge fence at our farm at Bergen Community College, actually. And in a day, they built this massive fence with their employees and staff that if we were going to build it with our volunteers, it would have taken us weeks. Then they brought out trucks and tractors, equipment, and then eventually wound up also donating a substantial amount of money to us.
Where's MEVO headed?
MEVO is headed to build another farm. Locally, we're headed to build a 2-acre farm. I'm building a 2-acre farm in Mahwah, New Jersey, which is going to be the biggest farm we've ever built and help thousands and thousands of residents throughout the North Jersey area.
No, that's okay. I have a feeling you could keep going for a long time.
I could go forever.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time,
No
but
problem.
we're going to come back. We're going to check in with you in a little bit because I have no doubt that you're going to make huge strides in between now and whenever we next talk to you.
Thank you.
A month even. I told you, dynamic, motivated, civic-minded. It doesn't get better than this. Eric Fuchs-Stengel, Executive Director and Founder, Mahwah Environmental Volunteers Organization. I encourage our viewers to get out there and support because it is all volunteers. Thank you, Eric.
Life and Living has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Life and Living with Joanna Gagis has been provided by New Jersey Sharing Network, the Mental Health Association in New Jersey, Verizon Communications, Johnson & Johnson, Cone Resnick, United Airlines, and by the Russell Berry Foundation. Life and Living with Joanna Gagis has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.